Welcome to yet another tutorial episode on Modelur. Today's episode will cover the Split tool, which is a new feature of Modelur. In essence, this tool allows you to split modular objects such as buildings, city blocks, and complex buildings into two or more parts. Let's begin by selecting the Modelur Split tool and then click on somewhere on this building. You'll see a vertical plane appear. This vertical plane is called a split plane since it shows us how the object will be split if you click again to confirm the split. You can rotate the split plane simply by moving the cursor around the thick blue vertical line, which marks the place you initially clicked on with the split tool. The split plane's default color is blue. This color can change to green or red, depending on if the current split would be parallel to SketchUp's green or red axis. Line up the cursor on the edge of the building and hold Control. Now the split will be parallel. If you hold Shift instead, the split angle will be reversed. Whenever you do this and the angle isn't lined up to the green or red axis, the plane color changes to pink. Now let's finally cut this building by clicking again. These are now two different buildings where we can manipulate their parameters completely independently of each other. Let's move on and make this building on the base map. Looks like there's already one here, but the sides aren't cut at an angle that's shown on the base map. Instead of using the line tool to make the building again, let's use the split tool to fix it using the existing building. Let's begin by first moving the building on the base map. But now we cannot see where we should split the building. To fix this, click on Window, then click on Default Tray, and make sure Materials is checked, and then click on Show Tray. Then expand the Materials tab and choose In Model in the drop-down menu. Since this building is marked for service use, we need to click on the service use image. Finally, click on Edit and lower the opacity to 40%. Now the base map under the building is visible. Also notice that since the top floor of this other building is also labeled for service use, its opacity has also been lowered. This is true to all buildings and city blocks that fall into service use until you change the opacity back to 100%. We can now use the split tool to split this building. Using it from the corner is best here. Since we don't need this new building, we can just delete it. Let's move on to the other side of the building. Now hover over the cut we just made and hold the Control key to copy the angle of the split. You can also hold Shift to get the same angle of the split, but at the opposite direction. But we need a parallel cut, so let's hold Control instead. Click again to split the building. Since we're now done with this building, we can now go back and turn up the opacity of service use back to 100%. Let's now move on to this complex building. With the split tool, we can actually split this complex building into four parts. However, now these three buildings are still grouped together. Let's fix this with right-click and explode. Since the floors of all three buildings are now separated, we can select two floors of each building to create a new complex building to reform the building as a whole. Now we are free to edit parameters of all buildings separately. For example, let's increase the height in the floors of the middle building and then mark the ground floor of this left building for sports use. One important thing to note about the split tool is that it can only split one modular object at a time. This also means that if you don't select a specific modular object, Modelur will automatically assume which object you are trying to split. Hence, select the object you are trying to split, especially if there are many modular objects close by. Now let's finally move on to city blocks. It's important to note that the split tool works on city blocks whether or not they are locked. Let's use the split tool to split this city block in two and make it parallel to the three buildings on the right by hovering on the edge of one of the buildings and holding the Control key. Now we will mark the left city block for education use, and the right will be kept as residential. The school's building crosses over to the residential city block. To fix this, let's use the split tool on the building and make it parallel to the residential houses or the city block. In this case, it doesn't matter as the angle is the same. We can now move these buildings closer to the school building. And now we are finished with the tutorial. If you need any more help, please visit our official website and YouTube channel.